I didn't get a chance to see as many movies last year as I usually do, but I managed to squeeze out about 10 best movies and 10 worst movies. Usually I have to write down several movies, and the hardest part is condensing them down to 10. Oh, but this time, no. The ones I wrote down, more or less came out to 10. Except some I had to leave off the worst, like Fear, largely because I barely remember it, and Beautiful Disaster, the sort of YA romance that's also an MMA movie where the Russian mob comes into it. And it pained me to leave out Sisu from the best list, which was a consistently entertaining and stylish blood-soaked World War II action flick. So let's look at the best of what I saw, and be sure to put your picks down below in the comments. Number 10, Oppenheimer. Nolan took this story and did a remarkable job of making it a real big screen event made to be seen on the largest screen possible. Gotta get that compliment out of the way. For Fear, I'll say the same thing on a few other entries I've got coming up. Oppenheimer throws a linear narrative out the window, which could be devastating if done wrong, but here it still manages to have a flow and pacing that is so quick that the 3 hours went by pretty fast for me. Number 9, the action film Paton. This is a glorious, over-the-top flick and part of the YRF spy universe that includes War and the Tiger films, which I am bummed I didn't get a chance to see Tiger 3 this year. But this one was still worth every penny, with cool heroes, great action set pieces, some involving trains, which, oh yeah, that can lead directly to my next. Number 8, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. A near perfect way to make a summer blockbuster. Throw those trains off a cliff. I was sitting there, palms sweating, fully invested in the plot, the stunts, and sitting there thinking, good lord, someone's gonna fall off of something and get seriously hurt. I love this series, I love crews in these movies, and there's always a real passion for summertime movie making here, but not cynical. They crafted out a cool story involving AI, plus the ensemble works well together as always, and I can't wait for the next. Number 7, Infinity Pool. What would you do if you came across some cloning technology? Well, some of us may get some stuff done around the house, multiplicity style, or hell, you could use it to go absolutely batshit insane, like Alex and the Droogs have multiples if someone needs to take the fall. This might be the craziest great movie of the year, but I don't know, arguably it could be the next too. Number 6, Poor Things. I loved this movie. Poor Things is like someone pitched an old porn parody of Frankenstein, and then thought, actually, you know what, we could leave in the sex scenes, but I don't know, let's try going for some Oscar gold with this. This is a funny-ass movie, and the comedic timing of everyone here totally works. There are insane lines in this, but delivered so earnestly that the wit and dryness of the comedy really shines through. And best of all, I didn't know where this movie was gonna go next. I might be thinking, is the story wrapping up? And then the craziest character in the film, Christopher Abbott, shows up. Number 5, Godzilla -1. Godzilla going back to his roots as a terrifying figure in a post-war Japan, but more importantly, it's a real human story. We've seen it before where a lot of focus is put on characters in something like this, and sometimes it works, and other times, oh wow, it'll run the risk of them being bland and the audience not giving a shit about them because they're just obligations. Here, that's not the case at all. We really grow to love some of these people, to where there is real sadness if something bad happens to one. And of course, the action scenes are phenomenally well done too. Number 4, Air. I like that it starts with a history lesson of the year 1984, with a montage of everything you need to know, images of the stock market, Reagan, and the movie Rhinestone. Directed by Ben Affleck, it's all about the development of the Air Jordans and Nike working hard to secure their deal with Jordan. And it's totally an audience film, as the movie does a very fun job with its soundtrack, but you can tell the writers and filmmakers really care deeply about this story, as there's a great amount of heart and respect in it, and it's still funny too. It's so engaging that you're rooting for a great outcome, even if you already know how it's gonna turn out. Number 3, The Iron Claw, one where you'll be sad if you go in knowing how it turns out, but damn, I dug the hell out of this. This is the true story of the Von Erichs and the Von Erich curse, where they're a family of wrestlers who suffer tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and it is gut-wrenching, but not exploitive, as damn you really care about this family when you're watching it. The wrestling sequences are also very well done and riveting in and of themselves. I was hoping this would get some love come awards season, but oof, it hurts seeing this one shut out, especially for the performances. For decades, Holt McCallany has been one of those great character actors who, whenever he pops up in something, even if the movie is bad, I'm like, F yeah, Holt McCallany is in this! And it was awesome seeing him get a role like this. He really shines here and deserves to be talked about more. Number 2, if Air is like the happy, uplifting, colorful 80s comedy, meet its moody, vulgar 90s brother. I never had a BlackBerry when they were out and certainly didn't know much about the story going in, but my god, I was riveted by this. It's a great tech film, but also funny as hell, thanks to Glenn Howerton giving one of my favorite performances of the year. He's an actor where if you got a plot centered around people making Glenn Howerton pissed off, you're gonna get some comedy gold out of it. I was so glad I saw this movie. And my number 1 pick is no shock, as I put it in the title of my short review of it. My favorite movie of the year is Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. It's one thing to have your movie set in and filmed like an early 70s flick, but another for had it been made then, it would be a classic today. I'm totally just repeating what I said in my short review, but might as well. That review was a short summation too. I love seeing these characters that have a very two-dimensional view of one another at the beginning grow so much over the course of it that they have each other's backs, and really for a brief moment in time, all they have is each other. It's one of those great films where I left wondering what would have become of the characters in it, if any of them ever saw each other again. The dialogue here is perfect, as well as the acting, so this was a very easy choice for number 1 for me. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I know what you're here for, the worst of 2023 is coming right up.
We'll return after these messages.
I know usually this is a big vlog that I put up every year, but understandably my time is a bit more limited now, so I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna do it a bit more quick this time. Now let's have some fun. Number 10, Nefarious, the faith-based horror film, where a man is hours away from being executed, but could possibly be possessed by an evil spirit who is pointing out all of the shit the psychiatric evaluator has done in his past. The acting is over the top and not in a good way, and it's a thriller whose climax is the lead character being interviewed by Glenn Beck for like 5 minutes where nothing happens. Number 9, Love Again. I mean, sure, I guess this is a rom-com and whatnot, but its number 1 priority is to be a gigantic commercial for Celine Dion, who appears as herself to drift in and out of it as like this wise sage for our lead characters. This could work if it was done with any sense of irony, but it isn't. It plays it straight as hell, to the point to where I'm surprised her biography wasn't handed out in the theater. After all, they showcase it in the movie. I was hard-pressed to even remember the rest of this plot, until it hit me just now. Oh, it was a love story where the guy gets the same phone number as the woman's deceased ex. I'm assuming it turned out well. Number 8, The Children of the Corn, remake? Do you even call it that? This is a movie that just had Children of the Corn for a title and barely resembles the Stephen King story. That said, this was one of the most hilarious bad movies we saw this year. We had a great time watching it. It's shot and written like it'd be a mockbuster for a Children of the Corn remake, but no, it's the actual theatrical film. One of the biggest mistakes here is that they show He Who Walks, who apparently looks like if Groot was in A Wrinkle in Time. But still, it was funny bad. Number 7, if Sisu was the best of the Regal mystery movies I saw last year, well, Mafia Mama was the worst of the Regal mystery movies. This wasn't funny bad at all. This was just awkward. I still don't know who this movie was for. On the one hand, it's a total wine mom porn where wine is either featured or talked about more than a majority of the characters. And it's got the kinds of jokes you'd see if mob bosses turned up on Saved by the Bell. But then, suddenly, it will have wild bursts of violence like it's a Lucio Fulci movie. From eyes being gouged out after an attempted rape to vomiting on someone during sex. And then it'll go right back to acting like a movie made for my grandma. I'm almost impressed about how much of a tonal mess this was. But back to funny bad. Number 6, Ganapath Part 1. I didn't really know what to rate this because the movie is terrible, but like Children of the Corn, I was glad I was there, and I couldn't wait to see how much worse this would get. I love going to see Tiger Shroff movies, but man, this was his cheapest. The effects in this are so bad, that was almost worth the ticket price to see these effects that either look like they're from an unfinished PS1 game or the ships that I swear are taken from Battlefield Earth, and I'm not making a joke there. The hero doesn't really attempt to be a likable character, and I think may hold the record for the most times the word bro was spoken from a single character. Yet it was still easier to sit through than this. Number 5, The Expendables 4. Why the hell was this made? Where they really don't even focus on their gimmick of bringing back old action heroes anymore. Hell, in this one, some of our main characters just say sayonara about 30 minutes in. It's remarkable how cheap this looks. Maybe not Ganapath 1 cheap, but it still has a front porch scene that looks like a Tyler Perry sitcom, wildly bad looking action scenes, but I will say it has one of the craziest endings of the year that turns our heroes into just straight up sadistic murderers. This movie was pointless. Number 4, Jingle Smells. You know, that movie where an action hero is canceled, so his toys are taken off the market, and then a Robin Hood-like garbage man takes the toys and hands them out to kids for Christmas. Merry Christmas, dying child! Here's a Kevin Sorbo toy you can play with. This could work as satire, but it goes for every easy joke in the book, with dialogue that's all in Twitter speak. And the funniest part about it was I put up my review for the movie, which stars John Schneider, and then, not even kidding, like 30 minutes later, he started trending for saying this on Twitter. We're halfway through making the events of the film come true. Now I have to take all my recalled Eddie Macon's Run toys and pass them out to kids everywhere. Speaking of Sorbo, who wasn't even in Jingle Smells, but he's in this, Miracle in East Texas at number 3. The one where Sorbo and John Ratzenberger are ladies' man con artists who trick people into thinking they've struck oil, but then they actually do strike oil, but uh-oh, what are they gonna do now? This movie was like Killers of the Flower Moon if reenacted at my grandma's church because they realized it was a bad idea to screen Mafia Mama. It's not a well-made thing at all, and the nicest thing I could say about it was that at least it wasn't as incompetent as this. Because speaking of Sorbo, yet again, Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist at number 2. Also directed by and starring Sorbo. And sure, it's sort of about the rapture, but really it's a thinly assembled set of scenes where the hero warns of a rapture vaccine that I think the movie implies is the mark of the beast. And it sails past even Jingle Smells at being a Twitter movie, where there's paint on the church that says all souls matter. The intent of this is not to make something that's well made or well written or suspenseful. The purpose of it is to be the movie equivalent of when Sorbo gets his kicks off of his tweets getting likes. But the hardest movie I sat through this year, number 1, Knights of the Zodiac. This reminded me of the last Airbender movie, in that when I saw the Airbender movie and when I saw this, I really knew nothing about the source material. But even in watching them, it was still hitting me that something is off here. Something's wrong. Like you can feel it in your heart that there's miscasting going on and that this is not gonna land with its target audience. With the horrible dialogue and pacing, I'd almost call this a throwback to something from like the late 90s that would have only been in theaters for like a week, but at least stuff like Spawn or Mortal Kombat Annihilation, there are characters there, but here there's really not. These characters are just machines meant to spout out nothing but exposition dialogue after exposition dialogue, and throwing any sense of personality right out the window. I think this may be the only F I gave this year because it had the mixture of nothing in it working and also me sitting there fidgety and restless as hell because I couldn't even enjoy it as a bad film. I also want to give a shout out to perhaps my favorite go in blind screening of the year. And that was a movie called The Devil Conspiracy. It didn't make my best because I can't really call it great, and it didn't make my worst because it was just too damn much fun. Like a lost Lorenzo Lamas action film, where here an archangel possesses a dead priest to go into ass-kicking man of God mode to stop a cloning agency. No, not the one from Infinity Pool, but here a group of Satanists who want to use Jesus' DNA to create another Christ to offer as the ultimate sacrifice to Satan. And that's just a tip of the insanity in this. Show some love to this flick. I can tell they had a blast making it. And that officially wraps up 2023. Be sure to subscribe to our channel today and click the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.